Okay, so we're in the final week of a unit that we've been calling Mood Swings. So if the previous 3 Sundays didn't cheer you up, this is your last chance. Pressure is all on you today. This morning we're going to talk about emotional burnout. And what interests me about burnout is that we always hear about famous people who crash and burn. So we hear about Tiger Woods and the cocktail waitress, about Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Spanish maid. But we never hear about the ordinary guy who's just burned out. We never hear about that guy. The guy who's exhausted all the time. The guy who's got a dull pain behind his eyes and it's always there. The guy who goes to bed depressed and wakes up tired. The guy who just can't get motivated about anything anymore because he's just frazzled. We never hear about that guy. The ordinary person who's living a quiet life of desperation. And we should, because that person is all of us. Most of us are never going to be lucky enough to burn out with a cocktail waitress. Or with a Spanish maid who's after our kindergarten cop money. But we do slowly settle for a life less than we hoped. So this morning we're going to talk a little bit, best we can, about beating burnout. And here's this morning's teaching in a single sentence. The way you choose to look at life is the way you experience it. Let me say that again. The way you choose to look at life is the way you experience it. That's the short version. Here's the long version. It comes from a part of the Bible you've probably never read before, the book of Exodus, chapter 27 and verse 20, which says, "Command the Israelites to bring you clear oil of pressed olives for the light, so that the lamps may be kept burning. And this is to be done in the tent of meeting, outside the curtain that shields the ark of the covenant law. Aaron and his sons are to keep the lamps burning before the Lord from evening till morning. This is to be a lasting ordinance among the Israelites for generations to come." So this is a very, very early episode in the story of the Bible. And what's happening here is God is laying down some of the groundwork, the framework that will define the relationship between him and his people. And you'll notice that at the heart of that relationship is to be a thing called the place of meeting. And the place of meeting, as the name suggests, was a place where people could go and meet with God. And they would go there for all sorts of reasons. They would go there for inspiration, for guidance, for forgiveness, for hope, for some sense that they weren't alone in this cold, cruel, uncaring universe. And you'll notice that outside this place of meeting were to be lamps, and you'll further notice that these lamps are to be kept lit all through the night. So what this verse is saying to the people is, there is a place you can go at the end of a horrible day to get your game face back. There is a place you can go when life just lands all of its junk on you. And in that place find the inspiration and the hope and the courage you need to keep going just one more day. There is a place you can go when your head is full of all sorts of conflicting, confusing thoughts, to find a clear path that will see you through this thing you're in. There is a place you can go to get through this. But you can't let the lights go out. You've got to keep the lights burning. So the instruction then, notice, is that the people have to bring clear oil of pressed olives so that the people can keep the lamps burning. God, it seems, wasn't going to do this for them. What I get from this sentence then is that it's your job to keep the lamps burning. Just as we learned in week 1, it's your job to guard your own heart, so too it's your job to make sure you don't burn out. Remember, it's your life. It's your happiness. It's your responsibility. Your joy is your job. And it's your job to make sure that your own emotions don't burn out. So the question that arises then is, what do I do? How do I keep the lights on? Now this sounds cryptic. You think I've lost it already, but I haven't. Hold with me. A few hundred years later, Jesus too spoke about lights and lamps. Look at what he said. No one lights a lamp and puts it in a place where it will be hidden or under a bowl. Instead, he puts it on its stand so that those who come in may see the light. Now, it's hard for us to understand the significance of this sentence because we live in a well-lit world. But back in the first century, when the sun went down, it got dark. And when you went inside a house where there was no moonlight, it got extra dark. And if you didn't have a light, you were out of luck. So in the first century, what people did was they had oil lamps, or I should say just one oil lamp, because oil was expensive. And every single night, just before it got dark, they would light their oil lamp and set it on a lampstand, because the higher the light, the brighter the light. And this scene would have been repeated in every home, in every village, every single night of every single person's life. So Jesus is, in this sentence, talking about some very familiar imagery. And you'll notice he uses that imagery in an almost patronizing way. So he says to his audience, that thing you do every night, when you light your lamp, do you put it under the bed? No. Do you stick it under a bowl or hide it in a cupboard? Why not? What do you do then? You put it on a high-up lampstand so that everyone can, then he uses a very churchy phrase, we don't use it anymore, but we should, see the light. So that everyone can see the light. That's what we want. We want everyone to see the light. Now when Jesus says, those who come into the room may see the light, Jesus of course doesn't mean that they may see the light. Does he? When you go into a room at night and there's a nice lamp in the corner of the room, you don't sit on the sofa and look at a lamp, do you? You don't sit there and say to your friends, "My, that's a lovely lamp. Let's sit here and watch this lamp for a while." What you do is you look at the things that have been exposed by the light. You look at, you enjoy, you appreciate the things that the light has revealed. Because that's what light does. It reveals the environment around you. Then Jesus begins to apply this everyday imagery into the lives of his audience. He says, similarly, your eye is the light of your body. Now, what does this mean? Very simple. Just as a lamp in a room reveals the environment of the room to you, so too your eyes reveal the environment around you to the rest of your body. Jesus is saying here, if it wasn't for your eyes, the rest of your body would be in the dark. Your moods, your emotions, everything about you would be screaming, "What's going on? Tell us what's going on. We don't know what's happening. Inform us. Tell us what to think. Tell us what to feel. Tell us how to react. What's going on?" Because we can't see, we don't know. Your eyes, Jesus is saying, are the things that tell the rest of you what's going on, what to think, how to act, and how to feel. So Jesus is saying, in kind of childhood medical language, I suppose, that your eyes function every single day of your life as a light that reveals to the rest of you the environment that you're in. It is your eyes that inform your thoughts and your moods and your feelings. That's not a good thing, and that's not a bad thing. That's just a thing. Then he gets specific. He says, when your eyes are good, then the whole body is also full of light. When he uses the word good in verse 34, he's using a very specific first century Greek word that means single-minded and clear. What he's saying here is, if you've got healthy eyes, in other words, if you see things in a healthy way, if you look at healthy information and you look at it in a healthy, positive way, then that health will work its way into the rest of your body also. If you allow the right information to capture your attention in the right way, then the right information will get into your life and will have a wholesome, positive effect on what you think and how you think. And eventually you'll end up somewhere good. And then in contrast to that, he says, if your eyes are bad, then your whole body will be full of darkness. And here, instead of using the medical term that would be the opposite of single-minded and clear, he uses a very general Greek word, porneros, from which we get our word pornography, and it simply means nasty, wicked, bad, unhelpful. So what Jesus is saying here is, if you look at the wrong things, or if you look at the right things in the wrong way, that wrong look of yours will seep its way into your thoughts, into your moods, into your emotions and your feelings, and it will change everything. It will affect the way you experience life, because the way you choose to look at life is the way you experience it. So what Jesus is saying in this sentence is that whenever you look at something, that look is not a singular event disconnected from all subsequent events in your life. Far from it. If you look at what is bad, or if you look at something in a bad way, that badness influences the direction of your life, and you'll eventually end up with regrettable thoughts, emotions, and feelings. So what are you to do? Next sentence. He says, see to it then. Notice what he doesn't say. He doesn't say get someone else to see to it. Get someone else to be responsible. Get someone else to fix it. Get someone else to think through these things for you. No. That's not how life works. Your happiness, your joy, your responsibility, your job. You want to think better and feel better, then you've got to do it. You see to it that the light within you is not darkness. In other words, be very careful what you look at. Be very careful that you expose yourself to helpful things. Be very careful that you look at things in a positive way. We had an interesting conversation in my home recently, and my children raised a question with me. Frankly, I'm surprised it didn't come up earlier, but in my... I have a toilet in my house. Was that a surprise to you?
No.
Anyway, I have a pile of National Geographics beside the toilet. I think that's a good thing to do. And eventually my children asked, Dad, why are the National Geographics there? They wanted to know. I said, well, it's just good. It's a good thing to be smart. And the more good things you read, the more things you know. And it's good to know good things. There you go. Good life lesson. Anyway, so what Jesus is saying here. If you look at the wrong things in the wrong way, or if you look at the right things in the wrong way, if there's something about the way you look at life that is wrong, then that wrongness will inform the whole of your life. It will tell the whole of your life what to think, how to feel, how to emote. Conversely, if your whole body is full of light, with no part of it dark, it will be completely lighted, as when the light of a lamp shines on you. So what Jesus is saying there is, if you live in such a way that you deliberately expose yourself to good, wholesome things, if you're fussy about what you see and the way you see it, then eventually you'll end up in a better place. Eventually you'll take control of your moods so that your moods don't take control of you. Think back over your own story. Isn't there a person whom you wish had never captured your attention? Because when you looked at that person, it set in motion a chain of events that you wish today you could go back and erase. Weren't there experiences, opportunities, schemes in your life that you looked at them, and because you looked at them in the wrong way, 1, 2, 3 years down the road, you ended up regretting it? Don't we all have stories like that? Conversely, isn't there a person, aren't there people in the story of your life whom you're very glad that you met? You're very glad that they captured your attention. Aren't there experiences and opportunities and schemes? You're very glad that you looked at them and that you looked at them in the right way, because that look set in motion a chain of events that took your happiness and your health and your general well-being to a very, very positive place. What we look at has the potential to change the direction of life. That's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just a thing. And that's why we say the things we do to our children all the time. I'm sorry, no, you can't watch that film because it's not good for you. I'm sorry, but you can't look at those websites. You can't watch those programs because what you see there is going to damage you. It will influence the direction of your life and take you places eventually where you don't want to go. This is why the writers of the Bible talk so often about the need to be careful with what we see and the way that we see it. For example, there's a great prayer in the Old Testament. It says, "Turn my eyes away from worthless things. Preserve my life according to your word." So this guy gets the connection between the things that we look at and the direction of our life. This guy would say in modern parlance, if you look at crap things in a crap way, you're going to end up with a crap life. And there's no exceptions to the rule. Crap in, crap out. Negativity in, negativity out. That's how it works. So this is profoundly simple. It's a prayer in this case. Turn my eyes away from what's not helpful. Because I don't want to end up with an unhelpful life, with unhelpful thoughts, unhelpful moods, unhelpful emotions. And it starts with this. It starts with the way I perceive life, the way I look at what's going on around me. Let's have a look at another great sentence, then we'll bring it all together. This sentence in the book of Proverbs was written by an old man, a wise man, and he's writing these words to his teenage son. And he says, "Son, let your eyes look straight ahead." Well, why? Why would an old man say that? Because as an older, wiser man, he knows from experience that whatever captures a person's eye influences a person's life. So he says, "Son, I'm telling you, I've lived it, I've been there. Fix your gaze directly before you." In other words, son, this is your life, this is your responsibility, so make a decision. Decide what kind of life you want. Decide exactly where you want to be. Decide what your values are going to be, what your goals are going to be. Just make a decision. Don't care what it is. Just some decision about what kind of life you want in the future. And having made that decision, you keep looking that way. Because I'm telling you, son, every now and again there's going to be something coming out of left field and right field, and it's going to catch your eye. And once it catches your eye in the wrong way, it's going to make you look at all of life differently. It's going to affect the way you think, the way you feel, the moods you're in. And you'll end up taking a curve that years later you could very well regret. So pay attention. He says, "Make level paths for your feet. Take only ways that are firm. Don't swerve to the right or left. Keep your foot from evil." So obviously I think in that sentence he's primarily thinking about morality. And he's saying one of the best ways not to ruin your own life is just to be a little bit disciplined about what you see. And we talk about that stuff in moral terms, but does it not equally apply that we should be careful with the way we look at things? How we look at things, how we choose to perceive what we're going through. Let me give you two thoughts on beating the burnout, then we'll give way to James Bond. Thought number one, you have to look at things right, in the right light. The light in which you look at something, I think, is just as important as the thing you're looking at. So here's a picture of the same girl standing in the same field in front of the same camera with the same photographer. But you'll notice the way the light changes everything. Looking at your life in the wrong light can cause you to see things that aren't there and make you miss things that are there. Maybe your situation isn't as bad as you think. Maybe it's worse than you think and you're missing it. Maybe. Scratch that. What would be the harm? Okay, what would be the harm in you just making a simple decision to say, I am going to flip a switch in my life and try and see things in the proper light? Try and cast a little bit of positivity into this dark situation that I'm in. What would be the harm in that? I mean, let's face it, you believed in Santa Claus for 8 years of your life. Could you not believe in yourself for 5 minutes? Wouldn't that be so bad? To just try and look at things in a better way? So that you don't miss the things that are there, the good things? This is why God told His people in the Old Testament, there is help available for you in the dark. In the dark, there's help there, there's hope, there's guidance, but you have to keep the lights burning. You've got to do something to switch on the light, to see things properly. It's your job, you've got to do it. If your eyes see your situation wrong, then you'll experience your situation wrong. Thought number 2, notice that in this morning's verse, the call was for clear oil of pressed olives for the light so that the lamps might be kept burning. That really jumps out at me because I know more than I should about olive oil in the ancient world. In the ancient world, there were 2 different kinds of olive oil. The first and most common kind was olive oil that went through a mill. So you would walk up to an olive oil making machine, a couple of stones, with a big basket of olives, and you would dump in the olives, and whatever came out the other end was what came out the other end. And all too often, this is how we choose to live life. Here I am at the start of the day, and there's just a whole basket of mixed emotions, mixed opportunities, mixed feelings, and I'm just going to dump it in the mill, and we'll see what we'll see. What we end up with is what we'll end up with. Crap in, crap out. Negativity in, negativity out. Let's see. But in this verse, it jumps out at me because it calls for a different kind of oil, a higher quality kind of oil, pressed oil. How they made that was some guy would walk up to a basket of olives and he would do the thing you Italians do at garden foods. You know what you do. I've seen you. You touch everything. You select the best. Fair enough. This is what the guy would do. He'd go up to his olives, he would select the best, then he wouldn't put them through a mill. He would get a kind of mortar and pestle thing and he would press them, and oil would come out, but he would take the bad bits out of the oil. He was very, very deliberate about the kind of oil he wanted to end up with. What I get from this is that you can't live better than you think. You can't live better than you think. Any old thing isn't good enough. You have to be selective. You have to be critical. You have to be deliberate. You put rubbish in, you'll get rubbish out. If you choose to live with dark thoughts, you'll end up in a dark place. But here's the rub. Doing the positive thing, like controlling your moods so that your moods don't control you, that's work. That's not the path of least resistance. Hence the verb in this sentence, hence the need to press, to press, to press, to grind, to select, to take out, to put in, to choose one over the other. This is work. To beat, to fight, to manage your moods, to flip a switch, to see the world in a better light, to take charge of your own happiness, to be responsible for your own joy. These are not easy things to do in the circumstances where we often find ourselves. But they are right, and they do make all the difference. The way you choose to see life is the way you're going to experience it. So what this verse, obscure as it is from the Old Testament, would say to us this week is, what I need for you to do is to keep those lamps burning so that you can see things in the light. And to do that, what I need for you to do is press out the bad so that you're left with the good. Press out the negative thoughts. Stop saying silly things like, they put me in a bad mood. You put yourself in a bad mood by allowing their misery to make you miserable. Get control. Stop saying, this always happens to me. It doesn't always happen to you. It happened to you like 5 times, maybe 6. No more than 7, definitely less than 10. But it doesn't always happen to you. It doesn't. Stop talking yourself into bad luck, and stop saying you're unlucky. How are you unlucky? How are you cursed with bad luck? Stop saying that. Press that thought out. The fact is, there's lots of good things that have happened to you in the past as well. Why not think about them? Why not see your life in that light instead of seeing it in the dark? Stop saying you can't. Stop saying it's over. Stop saying it's too late. Stop saying everyone else is luckier than you are. Stop saying you're stuck. Press out best you can all the unhelpful stuff and see where you end up with. See your life in the light, and you'll live differently. You'll live better. We gotta go now, I think. Next week we're starting a new series called How to Be the Hero of Your Own Story, kind of following on from this. It's going to be great. There's a lot of situations that we find ourselves in where we just need to be brave. We need to find strength. So we're going to be talking about that over the next few weeks. Thanks for coming. God bless you. Have a great week.
Sorry, I just meant to mention earlier, if you're interested in the book,